Good evening. So good to have you on WKYT. Turnout was low on this election day, just over 13%. That's according to the Secretary of State's website.
The focus tonight was on the Republican primary for governor as a crowded field battled, hoping to take on Governor Andy Beshear in the fall. Attorney General Daniel Cameron came out victorious by a significant margin. Kentucky Agriculture Commissioner Ryan Quarles was the second place finisher, and former UN Ambassador Kelly Craft took third.
Our Kelsey Soto was following Daniel Cameron's campaign all day long and has a recap now of his reaction from Louisville.
History made here tonight in downtown Louisville as Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who was first voted into that seat in 2019, the first Republican to do so in more than 70 years, has now made history again tonight as the first African-American Republican nominee for governor. We have heard from his supporters who say this is an exciting time. Senator Donald Douglas, who was the first black state senator, says it gives him hope for the future. We've seen from Daniel Cameron this evening, who has been quoted in years past saying that he was focused on being Attorney General and that was his priority whenever those comments and mentions of the long-running joke that AG stands for aspiring governor were brought up, but he has now set his sights on the governor's mansion. He spent most of his acceptance speech focusing on his new opponent in the fall, discussing why Andy Beshear doesn't deserve a second term. Cameron did thank former President Donald Trump for his endorsement and spent time thanking his family and campaign team for their work, dedication, and commitment. He has quickly become a rising star in the GOP, including a prominent speech in the 2020 RNC in a race that will carry some significant national weight and implications. Cameron now focusing on his next campaign in the race to the November general election.
You and I together, we proved that no obstacle is too great. No barrier is too large when concerned and committed Kentuckians come together around a common purpose and vision rooted in ideals that have propelled this nation forward since its very beginning.
Now, if Cameron walks away victorious in November, he would become the first African-American Republican governor to be elected in United States history. So there will be plenty of eyes on this race. And we've also heard from his supporters tonight that they are so grateful for his cool, calm, level-headed nature, and they are looking forward to what he brings to the table in the fall. In Louisville, Kelsey Soto, we'll send it back to you.
State Agriculture Commissioner Ryan Quarles had a surprisingly strong showing tonight in the governor's race, coming in second place in votes after Daniel Cameron. He ran a grassroots campaign, and one of his main priorities was visiting all 120 counties in the Commonwealth. WKYT's Mariah Congido was with his campaign today and says he was positive about the future despite the loss.
A crowd of more than 100 people filled the room here at the Embassy Suites in Lexington, showing support for Ryan Quarles despite his loss tonight. He took to the podium sharing a relatively short but positive speech to his supporters, telling them it's okay, we had fun. And he shook all of their hands before he left and gave us a few minutes of his time.
This was a classic example about what wins elections in modern age. I went the grassroots route. I'm very proud of that. We knew we were going to be underfunded from the beginning. We didn't have the biggest budget in this race, but that's okay. I think that each of the top candidates had their own strengths and weaknesses, and I'm just proud we had a strong showing tonight.
Quarles has credited his campaign with staying clean and positive throughout. He says he thinks this did help him remain a top candidate.
I wanted to help set the example of not only how this primary but future primaries should be conducted, especially as the Republican Party continues to grow.
He says he spoke to both Daniel Cameron and Kelly Craft earlier in the day to congratulate each other.
I wish Daniel the best of luck, and Ambassador Craft and I are personal friends, and we both reflected on traveling around Kentucky and getting to meet Kentuckians.
As for what's next for Quarles,
I don't know. I'm going to say a prayer tonight. I have a great support team around me.
Quarles says he's supportive of the ticket this fall and is humbled by all of the support he was shown throughout his campaign tour. At the Ryan Quarles Watch Party, Mariah Congido, WKYT.
It was a disappointing showing for former UN Ambassador Kelly Craft tonight. She spent about $10 million, largely self-funded, and was the third place finisher. She saturated airwaves with ads, but her strategy just didn't pay off. Our Garrett Weimer followed her campaign all day.
In her concession speech, Kelly Craft called for unity to defeat Andy Beshear in November, but her speech did not mention Daniel Cameron by name or congratulate him on winning the party's nomination. As the polls closed and the numbers began to come in, Kelly Craft went around the room to greet the volunteers who put so much time into the campaign.
I have 2 words to say before I say anything else tonight.
When it became clear it wouldn't be enough,
If I could put those 2 words in bright lights, in big letters, I would.
Kraft made sure to thank them.
But as they come from my heart, they are bright and they are big with my deepest sincerity. They are thank you, and thank you, and thank you again.
She did talk about the tenor of the primary race, which saw her and Cameron trade barbs in TV ads and on one debate stage.
I knew we would be attacked by Democrats, but I never in a million years thought that the attack would come from my opponents, to my family.
Still, she said this has been the highlight of her life's love for Kentucky, and her gratitude outweighs any disappointment.
And within the families in Kentucky, I know where God is. I met him at your table. We met him together, and he shined on us together.
It's unclear what's next for Kraft. She did say here that their movement, their revival as she called it, has just begun. With the Kraft campaign in Lexington, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
And so the fall governor's race is now set. Governor Andy Beshear, the Democrat, will face off against Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
It is the second straight time an incumbent governor will face the sitting Attorney General. WKYT's Phil Pendleton was with the Beshear campaign in Frankfort and has more from the Kentucky Historical Society.
There was not a lot of question that Andy Beshear would be the Democratic nominee for Kentucky governor this year, but tonight it was official. Andy Beshear's father, Steve Beshear, was on the podium earlier tonight, stating that this is going to be a fight heading into the November race.
This battle starts tonight and will go every day between now and November 7th.
Steve Beshear was elected to 2 terms, and now Andy wants to make it like father, like son. Beshear took the podium as chants of 4 more years filled the loud room at the Kentucky History Center.
In every corner of our Commonwealth, what I see is hope and optimism, a belief in a brighter future, and the commitment to get the job done.
Beshear wants another term after facing a historic pandemic and 2 major natural disasters on both ends of the state. But he says the job is about getting results for the people of Kentucky.
So we got a good story, and we need to tell it. Kentucky was ranked number 2 in the country in per capita economic development last year. We're building the biggest battery plant on planet Earth. We have the lowest unemployment rate in our history.
Andy Beshear is obviously taking credit for a lot of the accomplishments of the state over the past 3.5 years, such as job creation and economic development. And I said that the Republican-led legislature may be taking credit for that as well. And his response was simply, there's enough job creation and good things for everyone to take some credit. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Now, we've been following several other races today as well. In Madison County, voters had a wet, dry vote on the ballot, and alcohol sales were approved countywide, a historic vote. It won by a 2-to-1 margin. Many business leaders in Madison County were in favor of the county going wet, while some church leaders were opposed. In a special state Senate election, Republican Greg Elkins will represent the 28th Senate District, replacing Ralph Alvarado. Alvarado left that position to become Tennessee's Commissioner of Public Health. Elkins will be sworn in soon. Current Secretary of State Republican Michael Adams was victorious tonight, defeating Stephen Nipper and Alan Miracle by a large margin. He will face Democrat Buddy Wheatley in the fall. Allison Ball won the Republican primary for state auditor, overwhelmingly defeating Derek Petty's. Ball will face Democrat Kimberly Reeder in November. For State Ag Commissioner, Republican Jonathan Schell defeated Richard Heath and will now move on to the general election in November. He will be taking on Democrat Sierra Enlow, who defeated Michael Malone tonight with 59% of the vote. Now, we have full results and more reaction on WKYT.com.